Hello and welcome to the FatBoss Guide to the Desolate Host in the Tomb of Sargeras. So this two-phase fight is considered by many to be the most complex and confusing in the entire instance. However, if you look at the encounter step by step, you'll realise it's not as bad as you think, and hopefully this guide will help break down the fight to a more understandable level. So to start off, let's talk about the most important stuff first. So the encounter has two realms that share this same space. It's basically phasing. There is a corporeal realm, which is where everyone starts as you enter the encounter room, and a spirit realm, which is accessed by clicking the spiritual fonts around the room, and you can just use these fonts as often as you like to move between realms. Now both realms have their own boss and their own adds that will repeatedly spawn throughout the encounter on a timer. If no players are present in one of the realms, the bosses will go absolutely nuts, wiping you very quickly, so at least one player must be in each realm at all times. Now before you even pull the boss, you need to organise who is going in which realm. It doesn't particularly matter which classes go where, just simply split your raid directly in half, with one tank in each realm, half your healers in each, and half of your DPS in each. If you have an odd number of healers, have the extra stay in the corporeal realm. Now whilst in the realm, you cannot target or heal friendly players that are in the opposite realm. You can however see a faint ghostly outline of where they are, and this is important for later. On Heroic, if you're within 8 yards of somebody in the other realm, you'll deal damage to each other through dissonance. To make this a non-issue, assign sides for people to stick to during their time within that particular realm. We have our Spirit Realm players on the left-hand side of the room and our Corporeal Realm players on the right, and we make sure to keep the middle divide clear from players as much as possible.
Right, so let's talk about the adds. We'll talk about the bosses afterwards. Now in the Corporeal Realm, you have Reanimated Templars and Ghostly Bone Wardens. All of these mobs should be stacked directly under the Engine of Souls on the right hand side. Reanimated Templars will cast Rupturing Slam. This sends out waves in 4 directions. If you're hit by these waves, you'll take a very large burst of damage and be knocked back. And do note that these waves will hit players in both realms. You just need to keep your eye on them and make sure you move. As for the Ghastly Bone Wardens, they will cast Grasping Darkness. This is a chain lightning effect that deals quite a large amount of damage. Ranged players and healers just need to make sure they're spread out by 5 yards, just to minimise the damage. Now on Heroic mode, when both these adds reach 50% health, they'll buff themselves with Bone Cage armor. This effect makes them take 95% less damage, and it must be removed. But hold that thought and we'll move on.
So in the Spirit Realm, you have Fallen Priestesses and Soul Residues. The Soul Residues cannot be tanked, and the Priestesses should be cleaved underneath the Soul Queen boss. The Soul Residues will chase down players, leaving rot on the floor behind them, and this stuff ticks pretty hard, so you must avoid it. DPS should kill off the Soul Residues first, as they don't really have too much health. However, it is important that you are not near them when they die, as they'll explode, dealing damage to anyone within 5 yards. Now the Fallen Priestesses will debuff players with Spirit Chains. This effect deals ticking damage, slows players, and prevents players from using the spiritual fonts so they can't switch between realms, so healers just want to dispel this as soon as possible. Blessing of Freedom does work for any of the paladins out there. The main thing you need to know about the Fallen Priestesses is that it's vital that they are not killed too quickly. This is because they'll cast Shattering Scream on a random player. This channel deals an ever-increasing amount of damage and slows the target, and this effect stacks. Generally speaking, you need to interrupt this cast. However, when the Bone Shield is applied to the adds in the opposite realm, you need to use the Shattering Scream from the Spirit Realm to break it. Once you gain 5 stacks of the Shattering Scream, you'll explode, dealing damage to all players within 8 yards and breaking the Bone Shields on adds nearby, even when they're in the other realm.
So that was quite a lot of information. Again, this only really applies to Heroic. Let's go over it again just to show you exactly what you need to do. So you want to stack all the adds in the Corporeal Realm underneath the Engine of Souls and get them down to 50% health, and then just swap immediately to the boss once their Bone Shield is applied. Meanwhile, you want to kill off all the Soul Residues in the Spirit Realm and swap to the Soul Queen afterwards while dealing cleave damage to the Fallen Priestesses. Once the Fallen Priestess casts Shattering Scream, the player that is being targeted must move quickly to the location the Corporeal Realm adds, ready to break the Bone Shield. It is vital that players in the Corporeal Realm make sure that they're not near the location of the adds, otherwise they're going to kill the player that's being targeted by the Shattering Scream because of the dissonance. Once the Shattering Scream gets 5 stacks, which happens pretty damn quickly, providing he was stood in the correct place, the Bone Shields will be removed, and all adds in all realms can now be killed off. And that's all there is to it. You should always be in a position where you can kill off the adds before new adds spawn, and in fact, as you get better at this encounter, you'll find that you'll have massive gaps in time where there's just simply no adds at all. So now that the adds are done, let's talk about the bosses.
The Engine of Souls is in the corporeal realm and is completely stationary, however the tank must maintain threat on it, but can actually leave melee range as all of its attacks are ranged. It has 3 abilities that you must deal with, and all of his abilities will only ever target corporeal realm players. For ranged players, they need to keep an eye on their feet because collapsing fissure will cause a large void zone to spawn underneath you. This deals a large amount of ticking damage and does actually last a long time. You just need to make sure that you're spread from one another to prevent multiple people from being hit when it spawns, and you can actually dodge the ability if you move quick enough as it appears. Also to watch out for is the Spear of Anguish. This is thrown at a random DPS after a short cast. Once it lands, it deals damage to that player and anyone within 5 yards. It will also knock all of the players hit by the ability into the other realm, and when it knocks you, it will also knock you back. Normally this wouldn't matter, however around the outsides of the room is a giant pit, and if you fall into it, you die. So make sure you're not too close to the edge when you're targeted by this ability. Now simultaneously, as it throws you into the spirit realm, it will also apply a healing absorption shield on you and a nasty dot. This must be outhealed by the spirit realm healers, as otherwise that player will die. The healing absorption shield also prevents you from interacting with the spiritual fonts, so the quicker that player is healed, the quicker they can get back to the corporeal realm. Now one of the more impactful abilities the Engine of Souls does is Tormented Cries. During the 60-second channel, the engine will take turns debuffing a player, and 3 seconds later it will send a cone of damage towards them. This leaves a large wedge shape on the ground that deals ticking damage and silences anyone who stands within it. Also, if you stand within the wedge, you'll also take 300% more damage from the cone, pretty much preventing you from stacking them. So when targeted by this, you want to move as close to the previous wedges as possible. You still can overlap them slightly, just don't be inside one as it's cast. Also with this ability, which is a little bit cheesy, you can actually stand behind the soul engine. This allows many of the casts to just make it so the encounter area isn't affected at all. We honestly think this is a bit of an oversight, so use it while you still can. We think it might be changed soon. But typically with these wedges, as long as they're placed to one side of the room and not just like all over the place, you'll be absolutely fine.
Now in the spirit realm, the Soul Queen has 4 abilities. Her primary ability is Crush Mind, and this is just a cast that's pretty much just spammed against your tank. It deals a large amount of shadow damage, so it's a really good idea to have your best magic mitigation tank go in the realm to help deal with this damage. Now a very important ability to deal with is Soulbind. This will mark one player in the spirit realm and one player in the corporeal realm with a debuff. These dots deal ticking damage to yourself and all players within 10 yards of you, and it does quite a large amount of damage. Now the only way to remove this debuff is by having both players meet with each other within the encounter room. We assign the direct center, you can assign somewhere else if you like, we just find that the center is a very easy landmark for both groups to get to. On top of this, she'll also debuff players in the spirit realm with Wither. This is a 60-second dot that just deals moderate damage over its duration. However, this debuff makes you take extra damage when the Queen casts Wailing Souls. Wailing Souls, just like the Soul Engine's Tormenting Cries, is a 60-second channel that simply just deals ticking damage to all players within the spirit realm. The moment this ability is about to be cast, we have every single player within the spirit realm leave, apart from 1 tank and 2 healers. And during the channel, they simply just sit there and take the damage and try to stay alive. If you decide to use this strategy, keep in mind that it's very likely that your healers are going to have Withered at this point, so they are going to be taking extra damage from the Wailing Souls, but providing healing is strong, or they're using personal cooldowns, it's not too problematic. However, if push comes to shove, you are struggling, those healers can leave and new healers can come in. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Once the channel has stopped, things go back to normal, and a new wave of ads will come in very, very shortly. So it's vital that the DPS that left the realm, so they didn't take any damage from the Wailing Souls, re-enter because they need to get back in and kill the soul residue ads and get ready to break the bone shields with a shattering scream cast from the priestess. And from there, the fight simply just repeats.
Now both the Soul Queen and the Engine of Souls share a health pool, and when they both get to 30% health, the Desolate host will finally spawn. Now this mob is visible in both realms and will need to be taunted often. He simply has 2 abilities, both with very similar names, but both do the exact same thing, however they affect different realms. When he casts Sundering Doom, the corporeal realm tank must taunt and all corporeal realm players must stack under the boss. At the end of the cast, he'll do a large amount of damage split between all players within the targeting circle. Additionally, he'll do a burst of damage inside the spirit realm. However, this damage is reduced by moving further away from him when it is cast. His other ability is Doomed Sundering, and it works the exact same way, except it's now the spirit realm's turn. So the spirit realm tank taunts, the spirit realm players stack underneath, they split the damage, whilst the corporeal realm players move away to take less damage from the burst that is sent their way. and from there it simply rotates with each side taking a turn. However, the boss does gain a stacking damage increase, and this kind of acts as a pseudo enrage. If the phase goes on for too long, you'll probably be one shot eventually, and if any side does the mechanic incorrectly, such as no players stack up and help spread the damage, he'll gain instantly 5 stacks of this torment, which will pretty much wipe you very, very quickly. The thing is, while the Desolate Host spawns, the Engine of Souls and the Soul Queen are still alive. This leaves you in a very, very hectic situation where there is a lot going on all at once. We highly recommend saving Bloodlust for this point and absolutely annihilating the Engine of Souls or the Soul Queen as soon as you possibly can, whilst doing any sort of passive cleave to the Desolate Host. After you kill those mobs, the fight really settles down, as all you need to do now is just deal with the Desolate Host's very simple abilities. One thing to note while fighting the Desolate Host is that you need to continue staying on your sides on Heroic, because of the dissonance will still activate. So the Spirit Realm people should still try and stay to the left hand side of the room, and the Corporeal Realm people should continue to stay to the right hand side of the room.
And then from this point really, it's just kill him before the stacks get too high and he kills you. But thank you very much for watching, guys. If this guide helped you out, then please do drop us down a like, it helps us out a lot. If you'd like to know more about this boss or read up on any other encounters in the Tomb of Sargeras, check out our written guides over on Wowhead, the link for that is in the description. And as always, we'd like to give a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You guys allow us to do this as a job, we love you very much for it, and we shall see you all in the next video.
Thanks for watching.